Good morning, Algebra 2 Concept students. Today's lesson is going to be in lesson 1.3, the second part of this. So this is from page 18 in solving equations. Now, the important part of this is to realize that what you do to one side of the equation, you must do to the other. So they do talk about the addition and subtraction property of equality and the multiplication division properties of equality. These basically mean whatever you do to one side of the equation, you must do to the other. Now, in solving an equation, we are going to want to undo any of the operations. So if the variable that we're solving for, if they're adding 5 to it, we're going to want to subtract 5 to undo that. If they're dividing by 2, we would want to multiply by 2. And it's important that we're going to use PEMDAS, but we're going to do this in reverse order, which means we would undo any addition and subtraction first, and then undo any multiplication division, and then our powers, and then our grouping symbols in reverse orders. So a few examples, these can be found in your study guide on page 18. Number 1 is 3s equals 45. So I'm going to try to get s by itself. What are they doing to s? They are multiplying by 3. So the inverse operation of that is to divide by 3. When I do that, those 3's will cancel, and s is equal to 45 divided by 3, which is 15. All right, number 2, we've got 17 equals 9 minus a. We want to try to get this a by itself. In this case, we've got that 9 in front, which basically means positive 9 there. So I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides, which gives me 8. That leaves me with a negative a. And then, since this is like a negative 1a, I could divide both sides by negative 1. And a would equal a negative 8. Always good to check your answers. If we plug this back in, we have 9 minus a minus 8, which would give you 17. So that does check. Number 3 on page 18. This one has, you can see the variables, there's multiple occurrences of this. So the first thing we want to do is get those variables together on one side. I'm going to subtract 5t from both sides, which would then leave me with a negative 1 on the left side. I'd have t minus 5 on the right side. And then I would add 5 to both sides and get t to be a positive 4. So if you have multiple variables, get them together and on one side of the equal sign. Number 6, you can see we've got negative 2 times z plus 7. Now using our PEMDAS in reverse order, remembering parentheses would then be the last thing you would do. So since there's a negative 2 out in front, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. Which gives me a positive 4. Those negative 2's will cancel. Leave me with z plus 7. I could then subtract 7, and I would get z to be a negative 3, which we'll check. Now, some of you might think, hey, can I distribute that negative 2? Yes, you can. You could distribute that using the distributive property. I have negative 2z minus 14. And then I would undo this subtraction first by adding 14. And then I would undo the multiplication by dividing by negative 2. And I would get z to be negative 3 also. So both ways, perfectly fine there. Number 8, you can see this is an example of, we got 2 occurrences of variable. I'm going to get those variables together. I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. And then I'm going to undo this subtraction And then I would undo the multiplication by dividing, and I would get x to be a positive 15. Number 12 is just an example with decimals. You'd still do the same thing. Again, the number is in front, so this is like a plus there. So I'm going to subtract 4.5 from both sides. That leaves me with 2p is equal to 4.2. Undo the multiplication by division, and I would get p to be 2.1. Number 15 again, two variables there. I'm going to add x, undoing that, getting those variables together on one side, and then undo that addition. Which gives me 27, then divide by 3, and get x to be a positive 9. So I hope this helps you in attempting to complete the 1.3 assignment. And the big thing is to undo the operations in reverse order of PEMDAS.